Hey everybody, how are y'all doing? Welcome to the podcast where laptops go to die. I'm Michael. I'm with Alex.
How's it going?
And this is Falling Through Plotholes, a podcast about video game plot lines and how they have a tendency to go off the rails. And this is part 2 of our podcast on the Star Fox series. Last time that we did this, we went over kind of like the origins of Star Fox and went over Star Fox 64 in a podcast that probably seemed a little bit short. Well, don't worry. There's a reason why it was, because today we're going to be talking about the rest of the series, or at least the rest of the series that's kind of relevant to the storyline of Star Fox, as we go over Star Fox Adventures, Star Fox Assault, and then finish up with Star Fox Command, a game that I hate. But hey, you know, we'll get to that in a second. Alex, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing all right.
That's good. That's good. As I told you off recording, I'll share this with the rest of the people out there. I did a Windows update, and my laptop decided to not take that well. Immediately upon boot up, it was 100% CPU. So if things sound a little bit more echoey, that's because I'm recording in my main office. So the audio is going to be a little bit weird, but on the other hand, I have 2 screens, and that's nice.
Yeah,
so,
that helps.
So, silver linings. Of course, I now have a blanket draped over my head, and thankfully we're out of the second great Pacific Northwest heat wave, so we'll see how this goes.
Yeah, how bad can it be?
Yeah, it'll be fine. But you know what? Speaking of, like, hot stuff, I think it's time that we talked a little bit about a very hot series called Star Fox.
Yes.
Now, Alex, I want to ask you a real quick question.
All right.
If you wanted to make it the ultimate video game, and you had to take 2 video games and, like, smash them together to make it, what would those 2 games be?
All right. This might just be because I already have Star Fox in the brain. But I said it last time, Star Fox and Ace Combat.
Yeah. No, perfect. That would go...
Yeah.
That would go perfectly well.
Just make Star Fox Combat, please. Please just do it.
I want that Star Fox game where the president of Corneria ends up getting off a plane with their 2D picture of a dog and has to talk to Fox, and it's like very, very awkward.
Yeah.
I want that too.
Yep, that's perfect.
Oh man, that is still my favorite scene in all of Ace Combat.
It's so good. It's just so good.
And it's one of the developer's dogs, if I remember correctly.
Yes, it was, tragically, it was one of his dogs who recently passed away.
Oh.
And so in memory of that, he put a picture of it as a stand-in for a dog in the shot.
Oh, it's so good.
So good.
Well, Alex, for me, the 2 games I would combine would be clearly Super Mario 64 and The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. And the reason why I say this is, yeah, I know that it might sound a little bit odd, but the reason I'm going with that is because, it seemed that a certain company by the name of Rare figured that'd be a pretty good idea too, when they decided to make a little video game called Star Fox Adventures. Alex, have you ever played Star Fox Adventures?
I have.
Yeah, me too. What'd you think of it?
I thought it was... Okay, on its own, it was pretty good. My feelings about Star Fox Adventure are very mixed. But on its own merits, it is a perfectly serviceable action-adventure RPG with, let's say, pitfalls.
Yes, I think I think that's a safe way of putting that. Yeah, my opinion of it is roughly about the same. That game is lowercase f fine.
Yes.
It's a game that, the reason why I specifically brought up Super Mario 64 and Ocarina of Time is because this game feels like the worst excesses of both. Really, actually, it feels more like the worst excesses of Banjo-Kazooie combined with Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Yeah,
I'll agree with that.
And like when I first played this game, I didn't play this game when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
Because I couldn't really buy my own video games at the time. I was still a kid. And like I had other games like Luigi's Mansion and Super Smash Brothers and all those.
Yep.
And so like I didn't play this game until roughly about 2004-ish. And even then I kind of thought, I was like, man, this game is not aged well.
Yeah. So I don't think I bought it until years later, but I did rent it from Blockbuster when it first came out. And at the time, it definitely felt very Ocarina of Time. And given that Wind Waker wasn't out yet or hadn't even been talked about, like there was no Zelda for the GameCube on the horizon, this was a nice way to fill that hole. Like it was a very serviceable Zelda clone to stand in until the real Zelda showed up.
Oh, yeah. And as somebody who played this game after Wind Waker came out, it's very noticeable. Like, you go like, nah, somebody did this better.
Yeah.
But yeah, before then, it's perfectly fine. If you love the style of game that Rare makes, which is there's way too many items to collect in this, then you're going to love Star Fox Adventures because boy, it is the most Nintendo 64 Rare game that Rare has ever made, except released on a GameCube.
Yep.
There are so many items to collect in this.
There's so many.
So many. And I think it takes if you get all the items in the game, there's something like 20 to 30 minutes worth of just cutscenes of Fox being happy collecting an item.
That sounds right.
And it's too much. It is way too much. Like I spent an hour and a half watching all the cutscenes for Star Fox Adventures to get myself refreshed on the game. Because I had beaten it before, but it's been a while. And like even I commented in my notes, is like, man, even in the cutscenes you collect too many items.
Yeah.
Oh, it's kind of ridiculous, but
it's a little bit.
I guess with that, we probably should talk a little bit about Star Fox Adventures. With the release of Star Fox 64, the series would not see another entry for 5 years, which is not unheard of with Nintendo. Typically with their major franchises, they like to take pretty big breaks in between, whether it's Mario, Zelda, or what have you.
Right.
But in the year 2000, Nintendo would reach out to another well-beloved and technically proficient British company with a proposal to retool one of their games into the next entry in the Star Fox series. Now, once again, I am of course talking about Star Fox Adventures, which is perhaps the oddest entry in the Star Fox series as a whole. Now, one of the reasons why I wanted to do Star Fox in the first place, Alex, was because Star Fox Adventures is an example of a very odd and I won't say exclusive to video games, but definitely most prevalent in video games, where you will see a franchise take an unrelated game and have it retooled to fit that franchise.
Right.
Now, these games typically don't have major implications in said franchise, but Star Fox Adventures is quite different in that regard. It's going to have a pretty lasting impact on Star Fox, mostly because of the introduction of one particular character that we're going to get into.
Yes.
Yes, and you definitely know who I'm talking about.
Yep, Tricky.
Yes, Tricky. Tricky, the Triceratops, he's going to be responsible for the deaths of many races over the course of the next 3 games, and is just an absolute war criminal.
Absolutely. He's basically history's greatest murderer by proxy.
He is, and as much as we joke, I was about to say he's also racist, but that's actually canonical. He actually is racist.
A little bit, yeah.
Can't wait to talk about dinosaur racism.
Which is a thing that we all knew existed. We just never wanted to admit it.
Yeah, right. Everyone knows that T-Rexes look down on the velociraptors.
It's true.
So, the company behind this game, Rare, is another British-based developer that, up until this point, was known for 2 things. One was their close relationship with Nintendo, and 2 was their often universally praised Nintendo 64 games. Games that would often push the limits of the console, and would just generally be kind of very well regarded for being technical showcases of what that system was capable of. Now, as much as I want this to be the podcast where we go into the incredibly fascinating history of Rare, this really isn't the place for it, because this is the only time Rare is really going to come into the story. And maybe one day when we do our Banjo-Kazooie talk about the entire plot of that, we will. But for now, I will just kind of keep it a little bit limited and say that they are, in essence, very much like Argonaut Software in the way that they can push the limits of what is possible. And they also have another thing that they share with them in that they were already, they had already been involved with the Nintendo franchise before, and they were responsible for producing the much beloved revival of the Donkey Kong series. So between all of that, it seemed like they were the perfect company to take over Star Fox. Now, however, in order to explain why this may not be the case, we kind of got to talk about Dinosaur Planet, and it's impossible not to talk about the development of this game because it has huge ramifications for the story. So Dinosaur Planet was supposed to be the grand final game that Rare was going to put out for the Nintendo 64. It was targeted for a 2001 release date, if I remember correctly. Now, the development behind Dinosaur Planet was kind of a mess from day one. And you know it's a mess because it involves the game Diddy Kong Racing.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So Diddy Kong Racing was a kart racing game released in 1997 that is also very much beloved. It's maybe the second or third best kart racer of all time that isn't just in the Mario Kart series. So now that game itself had a really weird development in that originally it was supposed to be an RC Pro-Am game. Yeah, it was supposed to star Timber the Tiger, and Nintendo saw it and said, hey, how about you put the Donkey Kong license on this? As you can see, this is a recurring theme in Rare's relationship with Nintendo.
Yeah, and several other companies' relationship with Nintendo.
Yeah, weird how that works. So Rare went ahead and did this, and they released Diddy Kong Racing, and after that, they started work on Dinosaur Planet, which was originally going to star Timber the Tiger. Now, Timber, unfortunately, is going to be 0-2 on being a protagonist of his own game, because this game's going to undergo a couple of retools over a 3-year period. And eventually, they're going to settle on the idea of a story involving 2 characters. Saber the Wolf, which is a reference to an old game that Rare put out called Saber Wolf, and Crystal the Fox. Crystal would undergo kind of many different species changes, but eventually they settled on Fox. Now, each character would get a dinosaur buddy who would help them progress through a very Zelda-like game, and by the time it was shown off at E3 in the year 2000, the press was just drooling over this game. Like, the write-ups for this in, like, EGM and on IGN were just, like, fawning over this, like, amazing game. And, like, it was very, very ambitious. The prototype for this game got leaked earlier this year, and it is legitimately very impressive. So, like, IGN, in fact, when it got eventually retooled to Star Fox Adventures, they went back and did a retrospective on that in 2002, early 2002, where they basically talked about how much they just loved this game and wish it would got released.
Yeah.
So, all the following comes from an excellent article that was written by Ken Bayless. Now, Ken Bayless is a character designer on Dinosaur Planet and was a longtime Rare employee. He's most famously known for being the guy who created Donkey Kong's current look, as well as being the guy behind Diddy Kong. So, pretty important guy, all told, in the history of Nintendo.
Mm-hmm.
So, he talks about how Nintendo took notice of the game when it was shown off at E3 2000, and he immediately got in contact with Rare and said, hey, stop talking about this game. They hastily set up like a meeting in LA, all got together a room with Shigeru Miyamoto and other Nintendo higher-ups when Miyamoto pointed out that there were some striking similarities between this game and Star Fox. And, like, mind you, there was no, like, tenseness between this meeting. Like, Nintendo wasn't accusing them of anything. They were just pointing out, hey, these two look similar.
Right.
Now, the 2 things that look similar is that Crystal was a fox, and Star Fox, specifically Fox McCloud, was a fox.
Right.
Therefore, they should retool this game and make it a Star Fox game.
So, I don't think that's the worst idea in the world. I don't think it's the best idea. I think it sort of leans into Nintendo's preference for falling back on their established properties rather than making new ones a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But, like, the thing that actually gets to me is, how did they not bring this up before 2000? Like, this is the company that made GoldenEye, Perfect Dark, Banjo-Kazooie, Banjo-Tooie, and Donkey Kong 64, and Diddy Kong Racing. Why were you not paying attention to everything they made?
So that's actually a very interesting point, and Bayless goes into this. A lot of Dinosaur Planet, because it was getting constantly, like, retooled and whatnot, was kind of in the dark. And because of that, like, a lot of Rare's main attention was focused on, like, stuff like Jet Force Gemini and Perfect Dark that was coming out.
Right.
And so they just never kind of reached out to Nintendo at all about this game. They just went, we're just going to put it together, then we'll present to Nintendo and release it. So, like, that's the big reason why Nintendo, like, didn't really know about this until they saw it at E3 and went, oh, huh, yeah, that looks neat. It should be a Star Fox game.
Interesting.
And it's also interesting that you bring up that this doesn't seem like a bad idea on its face, because Rare seemed to be kind of split down the middle as far as what they felt about this. It seemed that a lot of people working on Dinosaur Planet were a little sad about retooling this game, but a lot of other people, particularly the Stamper brothers and whatnot, the heads of Rare, were like, actually, this is a really good opportunity. Like, this name has cachet. It's one of Nintendo's major franchises at this point. This makes perfect sense. Yeah, of course we're going to do this. And to be fair, like, Nintendo gave their full-throated support behind this game. Like, they rarely got in Rare's way. They just sort of let them do their thing because, once again, they had a really good relationship.
Right.
And so, like, it's one of those things where I definitely want to point out that there was nothing fraught about this development as far as Nintendo's involvement beyond them being like, make it Star Fox.
Right.
So yeah, it's just kind of this really weird coincidence where it wasn't really ever talked about. Nintendo then saw it and it's like, all right, well, I guess it's a Star Fox game now.
Mm-hmm.
So how it ended up going is that Fox McCloud initially was going to be a third playable character, and then he later took Saber's place, and then finally they just went, how about he's just the main character and he's the only character?
Right.
So initially it was going to be a Nintendo 64 game still. In fact, this actually wasn't known until very recently with the prototype being released that actually had Fox modeled in the game with voiced lines. Yeah, for the longest time it was felt that this change didn't happen until it shifted development to the GameCube, but it turns out that wasn't the case. However, it was clear that they weren't going to meet that 2001 deadline. And once that was clear, they shifted development over to the GameCube, and in November of 2002, Star Fox Adventure was released to mostly positive reviews. So, as kind of mentioned earlier, Star Fox Adventures feels incredibly out of place with the rest of the franchise. And in many ways seems like Rare's attempt at Ocarina of Time combined with some of their worst successes. Because once again, this game's a collectathon. It's like not Donkey Kong 64 level bad, but it's kind of bad.
Mm-hmm.
However, right? However, with the game, we do get the introduction of Crystal and the dinosaur planet at large, both which have surprisingly big ramifications for the story of Star Fox. And with that, we should probably get to the plot of Star Fox Adventures. Oh, a very British story, too.
Yeah. Now that you say that, that's... Yeah.
So our story takes place a whole 8 years after the end of Star Fox 64. Now, we actually don't open with the Star Fox team, but rather we open to a stormy night high in the skies. We see a giant wooden ship with like a living dinosaur head on it, breathing fire and looking kind of badass, and it's flying through the sky. So following it, though, we meet a fox lady by the name of Crystal. She's riding on top of this pterodactyl called a Cloud Runner. Now, Crystal is here, as we learned from the opening crawl, because she received a telepathic distress signal and is searching for the reason why her parents mysteriously died. I'm going to spoil this now. We are never going to hear about her parents ever again past this point. That was probably in an earlier draft.
Probably.
So, to describe Crystal a little bit, she is a loincloth-wearing mystical fox, about 19 years of age, if I remember correctly, with telepathic powers. And she's able to kind of sense the emotions of people. She's kind of like Deanna Troi from Star Trek The Next Generation in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
And she has a very, very strong sense of justice. Now, for the longest time, I was trying to figure out why exactly this character is so popular with, a lot of people. And it took me a long time for me to figure this out, Alex, but I think I did figure it out.
Uh-huh.
It's because she's blue. And blue is a really good color.
Blue's a very good color.
Mm-hmm. That's a reason why Sonic is so popular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Avatar.
And Avatar, exactly. Yeah, she has a ton of fan art that you should not Google image search with safe search off. Or do. I don't know.
Or
you do.
It's
Your
call. Yep.
Your call on that one. So, she lands on this ship, and she immediately runs into our antagonist, General Scales.
Yeah.
General Scales is rad. He's a buff raptor overlord trying to take over Dinosaur Planet with his tribe, the Sharp Claws. Now, Crystal's like, hey, is the distress signal coming from here? And then Scales is like, the entire planet is under distress.
What does that mean?
It means he's being a real dick. Crystal's like, well, you're evil. And she tries to fight him. So this goes very poorly because he literally just grabs Crystal by the throat and throws her overboard. But she's saved by the Cloud Runner that she rode in on. And so she just bids Scales farewell and then flies off to where she sensed the distress signal from, which is a place called the CYOA Palace. So upon arriving there, she solves various puzzles and reaches the inner sanctum. And when she gets there, she's encountered by an evil spirit who she recognizes very briefly, but immediately traps her in a crystal. This crystal gets suspended high above the CYOA Palace, and with that, a staff that she was holding is dropped and falls to the ground below. Crystal more or less exits the story from here on out.
Yeah.
And it's weird because you play as her through this entire period too, and she's like a fleshed out character and everything, and then after that it's
she's got mechanics, and then yeah,
this is a real good example of clearly some aspect of original Dinosaur Planet still being carried forward.
Right.
So in the meantime, we cut to space and we see our old friends, Team Star Fox. They've fallen on some hard times though. So in the 8 years, Peppy has gone old and stopped flying. He's just kind of the team advisor now. Mm-hmm. Slippy has decided to become a full-time mechanic. And Falco has left the team after getting into a really dumb spat with Fox. So the team is unable to get any work, and the Great Fox is in complete disrepair. The R-Wings are falling apart, and just everything's going bad. Thankfully, the team, though, they're contacted by General Pepper, who informs them that a planet on the very edge of the Lilat system is in danger of exploding. We're, of course... Yeah, right? We're, of course, talking about Dinosaur Planet. And it turns out it's in much worse shape than we thought. Because it turns out giant chunks of the planet are floating above the surface, barely connected by thin energy ribbons. And so Pepper tasked Fox with going down to the surface and figuring out a way to stop this. And Fox takes the mission because they desperately need the money.
Right.
So Fox lands in the Earthwalker Kingdom, which is a kingdom full of a bunch of Triceratops, who are soon going to prove to be just the most pathetic race in existence. The idea that these people survive long for 5 seconds is amazing. So Fox sets out to talk with the Queen Earthwalker, but before he could do that, he's informed by General Pepper that this is a diplomatic mission. He cannot take his blaster along with him because he doesn't want Fox to blow up the planet. He's like, you'll shoot first, ask questions later, Fox. Right. You're a loose cannon. So Fox is like, all right, fine, whatever. So Fox goes to set out to find the Queen, and he actually happens upon Crystal's staff, which upon grabbing it, very awkwardly, a giant disembodied head of crystal shows up. And slowly expands and shrinks all around Fox it's really awkward looking.
Yeah.
And basically tells him about the staff and how it's magic. And also, please give it back to me when you find me. So Fox is like, rad, I got a staff. And he goes and he meets with the Queen Earthwalker. So Queen Earthwalker is very sick, and she informs Fox that, hey, my son, Prince Tricky, has been kidnapped. He is on Ice Mountain, and I need you to go rescue him. Now, Fox here is kind of a rude boy. He's kind of a rude boy throughout the game. He is very annoyed by this request and refuses to refer to her by her royal titles. He's like, what do you want, ma'am? It's she's the queen of this entire kingdom. Show some respect, Fox. So Fox is fine, okay. And he goes to this ancient stone deity with a Scottish accent that's called the Warpstone. The Warpstone's a dick.
Yeah.
He basically pretends to not know what he's doing and basically takes the piss out of Fox constantly until Fox is just please send me to the ice place. But she goes, fine, all right.
This is a really British game, huh?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, everyone has a British accent, including Fox on occasion, and they're all just very passive aggressive toward each other. So Fox ends up arriving on Ice Mountain, and he sees a spaceship fly overhead and drop off a tiny Triceratops, which Fox immediately identifies as Tricky. Now, after a weird speeder bike chase, Fox manages to actually rescue him, and we find out that Tricky is a teenager and is absolutely obnoxious. He and Fox just constantly are butting heads, getting into fights with each other and whatnot, and he's clearly just supposed to be rebellious and whatnot. Now, they have a small fight about who rescued who until Fox calms him down by telling him that his father has been taken prisoner by the Sharp Claws. Information Fox should not possess.
Yeah, I was going to say, does that come up before?
This appears to be from an earlier draft. He's supposed to know about this beforehand, but he's never told in this version of the game. In fact,
right, fair enough.
Yeah, about 10 hours later, Fox is going to learn this information, and he's going to be very shocked. So Tricky's like, okay, Fox, I'm going to help you. So they head back to the Earthwalker Kingdom, and they meet up with the Queen, who Tricky quickly identifies as dying. He's like, oh no, my mom's dying. And right. Fox doesn't care. He literally, George Bush style, declares mission accomplished, and even calls up Peppy. He's like, yeah, let General Pepper know we're done. Let's get paid.
And planet's still exploding, though.
Yeah, Peppy's like, you've done shit. What do you know? He's like, you need to know, you stay down there until you do your job. And Fox fine, whatever. Fox is a terrible leader in this game.
Yeah, it's kind of a real 180.
Yeah, he's... throughout this entire game, he is the most passive-aggressive and condescending person. He is so unlikable. It's amazing. It's amazing what they've done. The character assassination.
It's like, geez, you don't give the guy a specific thing to blow up, and he just doesn't know what to do with himself.
He goes, okay, here's my blaster. Which, to be fair, Fox really should have called up Pepper after he ran into like the sharp claws and fought them. He was like, hey, there's hostiles down here.
Right.
Can I please use my gun now? Never does that. He never does that.
Yeah. So, also, it's like, it's weird that Pepper called up a mercenary force for a diplomatic mission.
Yeah, kind of.
Like, if they had been the bodyguards of the diplomat, that would kind of make sense.
Yeah, just a little bit, but no, not even going to go that far. Yeah, it's strange. I don't know, maybe Pepper was just feeling bad for his friend Peppy. He's like, they need the money, man.
Yeah, probably.
The Great Fox barely has life support. They're thinking about eating Slippy. Like, they need the help. So they find, like, Fox decides to help out the Queen Earthwalker. They find this thing called, I think it's called a white Grubhub and give up, or not Grubhub, Grubtail or something like that. And it cures the Queen. And the Queen is like, okay, let me tell you about what's going on. So there's this general called General Scales. He has been at war with all the tribes of Dinosaur Planet for a long time. And for the most part, has been failing. However, one day he just gets immense power, conquers most of the tribes, and he invaded the CYOA Palace. Now, from there, he unleashed the magic that's just roaring inside the planet. This planet is very magical, and by releasing these things called the Spellstones, which there are 4 of, it caused all the magic to try to escape the planet, which was what tore it apart. So, in order to prevent like the planet's energy from completely pulling the planet apart, Fox needs to get said Spellstones back and place them back at a place called the Force Point Temple. Now, there are 2 hiccups with this. To get access to the Spellstones, he needs to find the 4 gatekeepers, because all these stones are on the floating islands that are now just kind of in the atmosphere.
Right.
And the only way he could fly to them is by having the gatekeeper open up magic gates that he can fly his ship through.
Okay.
So he needs that. In order to actually place the Spellstones back in their seals, he needs a dinosaur of noble birth to breathe life into them, which means Tricky has to go along with him. Fox.
Great.
Yeah, Fox is angry about this. So we're going to kind of whirlwind through the next 4 areas because they kind of follow the same sort of pattern. But
right.
In short, Fox has to go back to Ice Mountain. He meets the Spellstone gatekeeper, Garuda Te, who's a mammoth. And he finds out that the Spellstones are dark ice mines, which coincidentally Garuda's traitor's daughter, who helped save her tribe from being murdered by giving the Spellstone to Scales, happens to be in prison there. He's like, don't rescue my daughter. She sucks. She's a traitor. And Fox is like, all right, I won't. And he runs into the daughter and is like, hey, yeah, Belinda, or whatever her name is, just to let you know, your dad didn't want me to rescue you. And she gets like very angry about it, but she then decides to help out Fox. And they manage to locate the Spellstone. And Fox is able to get it back after murdering a giant dinosaur who eats him and vomits him out multiple times over the course of the fight. So Fox gets the Spellstone. He goes back to the Force Point Temple. And upon placing the Spellstone in there, he hears a voice upon exiting. He looks up over the horizon and he sees a giant monolithic figure called the CYOA God. He's a giant spirit with a stone face who tells Fox about Crystal and how she's trapped at the CYOA Palace. He then has him undergo a trial that allows him to collect a CYOA spirit and tells him to go to said palace to deliver it. Upon doing so, Fox discovers Crystal, and in the most look at this sexy lady scene imaginable, like literally like starts from her like legs and moves slowly up while a sax riff plays. Fox is like, oh, she is beautiful. And Fox immediately goes from being like, should I get all these spirits, to being like, I need to get all these spirits. So in between finding all these spirits, which we're not going to detail, Fox continues to find all the Spellstones. So during this time, Fox formally meets the Cloud Runners, those pterodactyls, and we learned that the Earthwalkers are racist against them. Like, we can't... Okay. Tricky's like, you can't trust the Cloud Runners. I'm not gonna help you when they're being oppressed. And Fox is like, whatever, dude, I don't care. So, like, he has to go, like, rescue their queen, and actually gets captured by General Scales. Like, he meets him, and General Scales is like, oh, the famous Fox McCloud. And Fox is like, well, I'm gonna stop you. He's like, no, you're not. And he just gets captured.
Well then.
Yeah, but he breaks free and like helps out the queen and gets another Spellstone from him.
Wait, so do the inhabitants of Dinosaur Planet have awareness of events happening on other planets?
Turns out, yes.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, you think so? Because for the most part, they seem like a pretty agrarian and like not particularly advanced society.
Right.
Except all the times when they are. Such as building giant temples to contain magic and the shark claws having spaceships.
Yeah.
So yeah,
yeah, true.
It's a little weird. It's at the very least, General Scales knows about the famous Star Fox team.
Right.
So he does that, and then like after Fox like gets that spellstone and returns it, he gets captured by a very annoying raptor-like tribe called Lightfoots, who are basically a bandit tribe that speaks in a "me hate you" sort of way.
Right.
They're very annoying.
Right.
Like, during all that, he also continues to help out the very useless Earthwalkers with various things, such as rescuing their eggs, protecting them against dinosaur demon bats, and in something that seems just very insulting, literally has to reactivate their nightlights because they're scared of the dark. They need their nightlights. General Scales knocks out their nightlights, and they're like, "Kitty Fox, we're scared."
These people have horns on their head to skewer their enemies with.
Yeah, yes, they do. You think they would like use them, but no. You think they wouldn't be afraid of the dark, but
there are like better dinosaurs they could have picked for the coward tribe.
Yeah, and I don't know why they like go out of the way just to make this tribe seem as dumb and awful as possible from top to bottom.
Yeah, it seems like a weird choice.
Yeah, they're just they're just the absolute worst. They're the absolute worst. So after all this, we learn the third spellstone is in the walled city, and that Tricky's father, the king Earthwalker, is the gatekeeper. Now, Tricky's very surprised by this. He's like, "How is my father a gatekeeper?" All the gatekeepers to this point have been nobility of various stations, so I'm not sure why he's surprised by this. Either way, they go to the walled city. They rescue the king Earthwalker, and they find that they have to go to the lair of the Red-Eyed King to find the spellstone, which they do that. They get attacked by a giant T-Rex, which Fox brutally murders. Like in a scene where he literally like just like jabs this spear into his brain and like wiggles it, and like it's messed up looking.
Damn.
Yeah, it's kind of messed up looking.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, all right. Go you, Fox. So we find out the final spellstone is in a place called Dragon Rock, which after Fox finds the final gatekeeper, he managed to infiltrate and locate the spellstone. He's only able to get it, though, after dunking a giant lava demon bat with an arc cannon into lava. And
sure.
Watches him burn to death.
Okay.
And with that, Fox has all the spellstones. So Fox and Tricky go back to the Force Point Temple and place the spellstones, and the land masses that have been floating around fall back into place, only to be instantly repelled again. Because it turns out the only thing that can activate the magic to keep them in place is the CYOA spirits. Which, by this point, Fox needs just one more. Yes.
Right. So, this game involves searching for 2 sets of mystical keys to save the world.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah, and that's not on top of the scarabs you need to collect, the scarab bags to hold the more scarabs, because that's the currency, or the fuel cells you need to find for your ship, or the items you need to make Tricky's fire breath get stronger and stronger. Yeah, this game is rare at its best. And by rare at its best, I mean rare at its worst.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Also, I forgot the Earthwalkers can breathe fire.
Yes, they can. No, only noble Earthwalkers.
Oh, okay. My mistake.
Yeah. And Tricky ain't gonna do shit. Tricky's just gonna get kicked out of the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Fox bids Tricky a tearful farewell. He's like, "Tricky, I thought you sucked, and you still do, but..." At least that's what I imagine he says. He doesn't actually say that.
Right.
But he does make him an honorary member of Team Star Fox. So, hey, Tricky's like, "Man, I'm going to get my own ship, right?" And Fox is like, "I'll come visit you. Anyways, later." So he flies off to the temple, and he returns the last CYOA spirit. Only to find this isn't actually the last CYOA spirit. There's one more. And it turns out General Scales has it.
Oh.
Good news for Fox, though, is that General Scales just shows up and is like, "Fox, hi, how's it going? Gonna kick your ass." And
I mean, I feel like he just brought the thing that could defeat him and his plan to the place where it could be used to defeat him and his plan.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like a particularly good plan for him. But as we're going to find out, he kind of doesn't have a choice in this, because a huge, a loud booming voice sounds out that only Fox and General Scales can hear. And it tells Scales to give Fox the spirit and that he's no longer any use to him. Scales is like, no, I'm not going to do that. But it ultimately doesn't matter. He just collapses and Fox absorbs the spirit. So Fox does remark that the voice sounds familiar, but he doesn't think too hard about this and just returns the final spirit. Unfortunately for Fox, while this does free Crystal, the CYOA god from earlier now comes to life as a disembodied head. Screaming about how he's now reborn, he begins to rise in the sky and flies towards space. Crystal, who is now awake, is pissed. Like, she grabs the staff from Fox and, like, just starts firing energy bolts at it. And, like, Fox is like, well, thanks, I guess, you know. I only just rescued you. Like, he's, like, telling Crystal, like, bad, you're really ungrateful. And it's like, she's kind of, like, busy dealing with this, Fox. Stop whining.
Yeah.
So Fox jumps in his R-Wing and gives chase. And in the space above Dinosaur Planet, Fox manages to catch up to the god. And, like, the face of the god is facing his R-Wing. And it turns its entire head around, only to reveal on the back is another head. And that head is Andros, who's alive. He's alive somehow. Kind of out of nowhere, huh?
Little bit, and also, like, what?
Yeah, it's kind of like this game had a very consistent through line, and then they said, put Star Fox in it, and they went, how about at the end, just General Scales dies, and Andros shows up.
You fight Andros somehow. He's like a reincarnated god. It'll be fine.
Yeah, it'll be absolutely fine. It's just, there'll be no setup for this at all. He'll just show up. So it turns out that Andros needed Crystal to absorb and focus the spirits in such a way that it would revive his spirit. So he lured Crystal there with a telepathic distress signal. She was the spirit that he recognized. And then he trapped her in the crystal so that Fox would be lured there in order to get all the spirits together and cause the entire thing to happen. It's a convoluted plan, but I guess to be fair, it worked.
Why didn't he just have Crystal do all the things?
You know, it's a good question. Not really sure.
Crystal doesn't have a spaceship to chase him into space with.
Yeah, although she had to get the dinosaur planet somehow. Yeah,
Did she? Was she not just from Dinosaur Planet?
No, she's from an entirely different planet.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, right? Although she's able to speak the Dinosaur Planet language, so I don't know. Once again, it's like they decided on a backstory for Crystal and then went, make it Star Fox, and then they went, well, we're not going to bother explaining anything else.
Right.
Crystal's parents? What parents?
Well, don't worry about that.
Yeah,
it's the reason she's here.
It's the reason she's here. Poor Crystal's parents. So, Fox is about to fight Andros, and Andros is like, I'm going to destroy the entire Lilat system. And Fox is like, starts fighting him, and he's like, little match for Andros. But before his R-Wing is destroyed, a bomb explodes just on Andros' face, and another R-Wing shows up. Turns out Falco's back. And he's dressed up like a 70s cyberpunk dude, and he's between him and Fox, they managed to destroy Andros.
Rad.
Yep.
They just let him keep the R-Wing?
Yep.
All right.
This is going to be a recurring thing, but Falco has a thing about being like, I'm going out for a pack of smokes, and then gets in his R-Wing and flies off and doesn't return.
Right.
So, with that, Andros is dead. Dinosaur Planet reforms, and the team proceeds to get paid. Falco also decides to formally rejoin the team, and everyone is happy about that. Fox also gets a message from Crystal, saying that she wishes she could have thanked him in person. And then Crystal just sort of shows up, and is like, hey, I'm here to thank you. That really dumb sax riff from before plays, where it's like, oh, this is a romantic, sexy time. And everyone makes fun of Fox for being kind of horny. And the game sort of ends. And that's Star Fox Adventure.
Didn't the only 5 words they shared before be like, hey, you messed up, how about a little gratitude?
Yeah, pretty much. To be fair, I don't even think Crystal said a single word to him. It was just like, shit, take staff, start firing. Yeah. But hey, it's cool.
It's almost like she was supposed to have character involvement in the whole plot and then just sort of didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, now this 19-year-old is now the love interest of character that I think is like 31.
Yeah, sure.
So have fun with that, too.
Great.
Yeah. It's one of those things that you feel like that after this, Crystal just won't show up and she won't have any more involvement because just nothing really much was done to really incentivize her to join the team in any way, shape, or form.
Right. Just sort of wouldn't make sense.
Sort of wouldn't make sense, but nope. Crystal's going to be a pretty major part of the team going forward now. She's going to just straight up join the Star Fox team.
Yep. All right.
Her search for the parents, not going to happen. It's never going to be mentioned again. And her telepathic powers are only going to be mildly brought up from here on out. Yay!
Yay! Let's...
But hey, we're going to be hearing about not Star Fox. We're going to be hearing about Dinosaur Planet some more. In the next game, Star Fox Assault.
Great.
Alex, have you played Star Fox Assault?
I have. It was a while ago, and I only played it once.
Same. Oh, Star Fox Assault is a game that I love everything about except when I play it.
Yep. Yeah. The parts of it that are Star Fox are pretty good.
Oh, yeah. The character designs, the overall story, the way those R-Wings look.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the R-Wings look rad in Assault.
They are the best R-Wings. They are the best design for the R-Wings.
Yep.
Like, I love the team composition. I love the music in that game.
Yeah, music's pretty good. Crystal actually is a fun character in that game.
Yeah, she's actually a good character. Like, she's still sort of relegated to being, like, Fox's love interest, but she actually does have some agency on occasion, which is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, even like the main enemies in it are really, really good.
Yes.
The problem is when you play the game.
Yeah.
So we won't get to the development of Star Fox Assault too much because it doesn't really have a bearing on the story. But in short, it was developed by a team Namco employees who previously had worked on Ace Combat 4. And
like the best Ace Combat.
Yeah. Except... I don't know. They decided they wanted to do some on-foot missions in this, and...
I don't understand that. I don't understand why.
I 100% understand it. I think that the on-foot missions in there could be really cool. I just don't think they control well. They don't play well. Nothing about them is good. And they do really strange things where it's like, okay, you could either like be piloting the Landmaster tank, or you could be in your R-Wing flying around, or you could be on the ground running around. And like a lot of the game is literally just you on the ground running around.
Right.
Or like for some reason on the wing of an R-Wing firing at enemies in turret sections.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so this game when did Assault come out?
2004.
2004, sounds right. Okay. So this was a period of how would you describe this? It was ramping up towards the end of the console life cycle. Next-gen consoles were sort of on the horizon. And people's technical grasp over this generation of consoles had really expanded.
Yes.
So they were trying to do a lot more with 3D and with open worlds and the sort of expansive dynamic gameplay stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And when you had franchises like Star Fox that revolved around, let's call it vehicular combat.
Yes.
There was a trend of, okay, but what if you got out of the vehicle? So you had Star Fox Assault, you had Rogue Squadron 3, you had Spy Hunter 3,
oh god,
you had Mech Assault 2. I think there's like another one.
Driver.
Driver
with that direction.
Driver 3. You had Battalion Wars was sort of similar.
Oh god, Battalion Wars.
In that there was a lot of vehicular stuff, and you might argue that maybe all of this was because of Grand Theft Auto 3, and that's starting this craze of like open world vehicular / on foot hybrid gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
Of the ones that I listed, of like going from vehicular combat to let's also do on foot, Mech Assault 2 was the only one that worked well.
I never played Mech Assault 2, but it is. I know it's well regarded.
Yeah, it's actually pretty fun, and like jumping out of your mech to do power armor stuff and then steal another mech is like actually kind of cool. But as a general rule of thumb, if you have a really cool combat vehicle like a spy car or a spaceship, and you have the option to get out of that vehicle, you should decline that option every time.
Yes.
You should just stay in the thing that you're in and do the cool thing that the game was designed around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And because rarely do these tacked-on systems really work well. Because like if a game's built from ground up to be about one thing, if you bootstrap another system onto it, it's probably not going to work as well.
Probably not.
Like
almost never.
Almost never. Like there's always the rare exception here and there, but like even like something like Grand Theft Auto, like for the longest time, and really still nowadays, like the game's honestly at its best when you're in a car.
Yeah, pretty much. Every PS2 GTA's on-foot shooting is just the worst.
Yep.
It's so bad.
Yep. I can't wait for them to fix it for those remasters. And then
boy, those remasters is the weirdest thing in the world to me, but that's a whole other
that's a whole other thing. That's a whole other thing. But yeah. So I think there's another reason why Star Fox Assault did the things it did. And I think it's because there was probably a recognition, probably from Nintendo, that you kind of couldn't do Star Fox 64 again. And I don't think they're wrong about that. Because I recently played through, I bought Star Fox 64 3D. Because now all those 3DS games are $20 on the eShop.
Right.
And that's probably the perfect price for that. Because when that game was released, I think it was $50, and it was not worth it. Like it's still a great game, but like it's over with in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And so it seems like there felt a need to like make this a little bit more expansive, have a little bit more variety to it, because otherwise you're just doing Star Fox 64 again. And well, as Nintendo would learn in 2016, it doesn't really work out well.
Yeah. It's this really hard position where you're right. Like the gameplay of basic Star Fox doesn't go as far as it used to for a full price game. But as an answer to that, Nintendo in general and Miyamoto specifically have been trying to revamp and expand on that gameplay. Basically every proper Star Fox game since 64.
Yeah.
And it's never worked.
It never has. It never has. Ugh.
There is maybe one example of a modernized Star Fox game I can think of that actually kind of worked. And that was Starlink.
I was about to say the Starlink?
Yes, it is Starlink.
I kind of wanted to buy Starlink because of the Star Fox DLC.
It's really, really solid, actually. Starlink is a pretty damn good game.
Yep.
And the Star Fox DLC makes the Switch version the best version, hands down.
Oh, man. I'm going to be buying Starlink now, damn it. Yeah, I also have something that was also kind of is like counter to my own argument of like, well, they wanted to make it more expansive and whatnot.
Right.
This game's only 10 missions.
Yeah. Yes, it's also very short and very linear.
It's over in an hour. It actually has less content than Star Fox 64.
Yeah.
So, you know, let's just throw that all out the window. I think they're really banking on the multiplayer in this one to give it a lot of life.
Right, which...
The multiplayer's bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, and once again, it's too bad because everything around Star Fox Assault is great. It's probably like the character designs, the way the R-Wings look, the music, like even the overall stories. Star Fox Assault like hits all the buttons that I want to hit.
Right.
Which just makes it a darn shame that I just never want to play this game ever again.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and talk about it a little bit. So taking place roughly 1 year after the end of Star Fox Adventures, Assault starts with the Cornerian army engaging the last of Venom's forces, now under the command of Andross's nephew, Andrew. At first, the battle's going pretty badly for the Cornerians when the Star Fox team shows up. So the team now consists of Fox, Falco, Slippy, who's now part of the main like flight team again, and Crystal. Peppy's still there as an advisory role, and it's great. Peppy's perfect in the advisory role. Love him.
Right.
And they all show up to help out. So they easily cut through Andrew's fleet in what is maybe one of the strongest opening missions in a video game. The music is so good. Like, it's a giant space battle happening. It's absolutely beautiful. And, like, they catch up to Andrew's flagship and chase it all the way down to the surface of Fortuna, this beautiful garden world. So they eventually catch up to it. Like, his ship, like, Andrew's ship turns into, like, a giant, like, mechanical, like, face of, like, Andrew himself. Kind of like a send-up to Andross's final form. And, like, they start fighting it. Now, the fight's going well for Fox, but they get an unexpected assist when a weird giant butterfly-like mechanical, like, biomechanical ship shows up and blows Andrew up. So, Unfortunately, this ship's not their friend, and immediately tries to murder them. So Fox manages to destroy it, and Peppy immediately contacts him. He's like thoroughly freaked out because he knows exactly what this is. He tells Fox, hey, is there a core there? And Fox is like, yeah. It's like, get that core. We need to talk to General Pepper. So they get this core, called a core memory, and leave. And the second they leave Fortuna, General Pepper has already found out about this and immediately contacts Fox to tell him about the Aperoids, a mechanical hive mind species that the Cornerians first discovered 17 years ago. Now, we've learned about the details of this first contact from Beltino Toad, Lippy's dad, who's a brilliant mechanic, originally working at Space Dynamics, which is the same company that manufactured the R-Wings. And in fact, Beltino's responsible for the R-Wings, it turns out.
All right.
Yeah, and he's now the chief science officer for the Cornerian army. So he tells, both him and Pepper tell Fox about the Aperoids and how 17 years ago, a Cornerian fleet stumbled upon a single Aperoid and we're just immediately wiped. So they knew that the Aperoids were going to show up one day. And now that they are here, they believe a full-scale invasion is underway. So the only way to stop them is that they need to find another core memory, because the one they have is damaged, in order to discover their home world so they could take the fight to them. So Pepper tells them that they got a distress call from Katina base, and that they need to go to the planet of Katina to investigate this. So Fox and team go to Katina base only to find it completely deserted. So thinking this is a little suspicious, Fox decides to investigate alone on foot with like everyone else on R-Wings giving him support.
Right.
And once Fox steps his foot into the base, he's immediately set upon by Aperoids. So like the rest of the team comes to his rescue, and after a tense fight, they manage to drive off the Aperoids and even destroy like a giant walker, which reveals another core memory. So unfortunately, before they can collect it, they find out what the source of the distress signal was. Turns out Pigma activated the distress signal in order to lure Fox and the Aperoids there. So he learned about the core memory, and he deduced that he could sell it for a lot of money.
I'm feeling like he didn't learn a lot about the core memory.
No, I'm guessing he didn't, but I think he just heard core memory, money, okay. So he immediately collects the core in his like incredibly junky ship, like looks kind of awesome. And like he flies off and the team gives chase. So they lose track of him, but they decide to go to this place called the Sargasso Space Station, because it's known to harbor of criminals of all stripes. And once they arrive there, they're informed by an ape that they are on Lord O'Donnell's territory. Yeah, turns out Wolf has become the Lord of all criminals.
Sure, you know what? Wolf is cool. I'll roll with that.
Yeah, no, I'm completely okay with this. So Fox identifies himself as Fox and his team, and he's like, "Hey, listen, we're just here to get Pigma." This ape is like, "We're not going to give you Pigma. We don't know who he is, where he is, and we wouldn't give it to you if we could. Also, you're Star Fox. We're going to come and kill you." So the entire space station just scrambles and gets ships out there. Unfortunately for them, the Star Fox team's kind of badass.
Yeah.
And literally Falco and Crystal by themselves just wipe the entire like criminal fleet, while Fox and Slippy infiltrate the station and fight their way through to get like records and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so like this all happens just in time for Wolf and his team, Star Wolf, to come back and be very upset at Fox. He's like, Fox, like Wolf's like, "What are you doing?"
To be fair, Wolf probably should have told them like, "Hey, if Star Fox shows up, just be cool."
Yeah. Don't razz the space cops, okay? Please. So Star Wolf has had a bit of an overhaul themselves. So they kicked out Pigma for being a shifty pig, and Andrew went to do his own thing, right?
Right.
So Wolf and Leon have recruited a panther by the name of Panther.
Sure, you know.
Specifically, he's Panther Caruso. And he is a ladies' man, or at least he pretends he is.
Oh, he's so good.
Yeah, Panther sucks, but in a way I like.
Yeah.
Like, he immediately starts hitting on Crystal the second he sees her.
Right. And Crystal's like, Bro,
go away, please. So Star Fox fights Star Wolf to a standstill, after which Wolf reveals that, hey, listen, Pigma's no longer with us. And Fox is like, well, can you just tell us where he is? It's like, no. But Panther, being in love with Crystal, is like, hey, no, I can't refuse a request from a lady. Here's this comms log telling you where Pigma is. And Wolf's like, you dipshit. It's like, fine, just get out of here. Get out of here. So what happens is a bit of a wild goose chase. They go to like different planets and like star systems and whatnot, but In short, Fox tracks Pigma all over, and during his time, Pigma slowly begins to fall under the sway of the Aproid core memory. Like, he, like, takes a nap and, like, starts muttering in his sleep how he must obey. And he wakes up and is like, no, I can't obey. I can't. Oh, no, I have to obey. So, yeah, he becomes indoctrinated, essentially.
Good.
So he eventually retreats to an asteroid belt and abandons his ship. And, like, Star Fox finds him, only to find he's completely lost his mind. And he's, like, half melded into, like, a giant aproid machine that eventually he fully absorbs into, and, like, his face, like, juts out of it and just looks horrifying. I love it.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, and, like, he starts talking to the Star Fox team, and, like, Fox realizes, oh, that's not Pigma talking. He's gone.
Right. Right.
And the Aproid tells him, like, hey, you need to submit. You should not resist. It's futile to fight, and it's better to join us.
Right.
So Star Fox...
Resistance is futile.
Exactly. They're 100% the Borg. So Star Fox disagrees and blows Pigma up, getting the core memory back. So with that, Beltino Toad gets the core memory and starts examining it. And in the meantime, Crystal gets a telepathic message from a now King Tricky. So apparently Serena, which is now the new name of Dinosaur Planet, has been invaded by the Aproids, and all the dinosaurs have been assimilated. Whoops.
Oh.
Yeah, like you see like Earth walkers on the ground with like giant like pulsating purple blotches on them, and it looks horrifying. And we learned that most of them are dead. So Fox and team descend and fight them off. And like Fox and Crystal go to load, and Crystal's like, oh, finally, get to be on a mission with you. And Fox is like, I don't understand because I'm oblivious. And like they have like a reunion with now King Tricky, and like we learn a little bit more about the state of Fox and Crystal's relationship. After Tricky like teases Fox, like, hey, so you two like getting serious? And Fox is like, that's not a relationship. Because Fox is kind of afraid of commitment at this point.
Right.
And Crystal's like,
also,
oh, you.
She might have figured out she's like 19. And was like, I gotta be somewhere else. Can you leave the ship now? No?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. How about you team up with Falco? Yeah, go hang out with Falco. That's cool, right?
Falco's like, nah.
I already got one person after me. No. Yeah, it's a very anime
I love
sort
these
of...
characters so much.
What's up?
I love these characters so much.
I do too. I really do. Once again, like the actual through line, like the cutscenes in this are like a lot of fun, and all these characters are good, and I love when they're just like being a team and like fighting like overwhelming odds.
Yeah.
I just really want this game to be good, and it's not.
Yeah.
But yeah. So go ahead.
Sorry, it makes a lot of sense that like a lot of this story and writing and character design and stuff was done by Ace Combat 4 veterans, because there's a lot of like really strong character writing in that game too. Which is funny given that the way that game's story is told, like it's quote unquote main story is actually a side story, like a complete side story to everything that you're doing. Like it is, the main character is like a child civilian on the fringes of the war who ends up hanging out with basically the main antagonists of the game. But it's like there's just a lot of good character writing and storytelling and stuff. I just don't understand why they were so fixated on getting out of the plane.
Yeah, like I said, this had to be something from Nintendo being like, you need to change things. Because that's a Nintendo thing to like not repeat the same thing twice. At least not in a row.
Yeah.
Like it's a big reason why Paper Mario is never gone back to the well, for instance.
Yeah. Unless it's Zelda, and they got in trouble for that, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so disappointing.
Yeah.
So, speaking of disappointment, now that they're ready to go to the Aproid homeworld, but surprise! Cornelia has now been invaded.
That did take a while, actually, for a Star Fox game.
It kind of did, yeah. It's going really badly for them, too, because most of the Cornerian army, including General Pepper, have now been assimilated.
Right.
So Star Fox needs to descend into Cornerian City to stop the threat, and are almost immediately overwhelmed by the combined Cornerian Aproid forces.
Right.
Thankfully for Fox, though, Star Wolf shows up to assist, with Wolf making it clear he's not there to help. He's only there because he's the only one allowed to kill Fox.
God, I love Wolf so much.
I love Wolf so much. He's so great. So they manage to drive back the asteroids, only to be directly confronted by Pepper, who, in what little consciousness he has left, begs Fox to kill him. Fox is super reluctant about this until Wolf tells him to stop being wishy-washy about it and that Pepper is basically dead regardless.
Right.
So Fox shoots down his personal ship, but before Pepper can crash into the surface, Peppy comes out of nowhere in an R-wing of his own and basically braces Pepper's fall at the cost of severely injuring himself. However, he does manage to save Pepper's life. And with that, the team can finally go to the asteroid homeworld. So with what's left of the Cornerian fleet, they take off to the homeworld only to find it's a beautiful planet up front, and on the back is a mechanical nightmare with a giant hole leading to its core.
Neat.
Yeah, it's a cool looking planet. So it's protected by the big opening toward the core is protected by a shield, and Star Fox has destroyed all the shield generators, but they find that's not enough. The shield still is up. Mm-hmm. And during this time, the Great Fox has suffered catastrophic damage. So Peppy decides he has a plan for all this. And that plan is to take the now almost destroyed Great Fox and slam it into the shield head first.
Damn.
Yeah, it's real metal.
Oof.
So this succeeds, albeit at the cost of forcing the Great Fox to explode and presumably killing Peppy and Rob 64.
Jeez.
And Fox is like, hey, listen, we have no time to be sad. Peppy's given us an opening. We need to get down there before the shield reforms.
Mm-hmm.
So they descend into the core, and Wolf shows up with his team as well, and they help fight their way to the asteroid queen. And once they arrive there, the queen starts speaking to the team in the voice of their friends, such as Peppy and Pepper and whatnot. And they're all real confused about this. They're not sure what to do. Is it really their friends, or is it just the asteroid trying to trick them? It turns out the asteroid makes a mistake because she also uses James McCloud's voice, which just pisses off Fox. So I kind of skipped ahead of this. The plan in order to stop the asteroids is that Beltino Toad has discovered that all the asteroid cells are primed to self-destruct. They can self-destruct at will in order to keep them from being captured.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to fire a missile that's going to cause all those cells to self-destruct. And since they're a hive mind, it'll cause all the asteroids to collapse. So Fox, upon hearing his dad's voice, is like, what? No, this is bullshit. Fires that missile. And the queen starts to disintegrate, but she's holding it together a little bit, and they realize they have to destroy the queen with conventional means before the entire asteroid race disintegrates. And they have to do so before she can develop a countermeasure to it.
Right.
So Fox and team manage to do that. Wolf presumably dies during this, he gets shot down.
Mm-hmm.
But they manage to succeed in destroying the asteroid queen, and they escape the collapsing planet core. And as they exit, Fox says of the asteroid queen in a really dumb line, she tried to bypass evolution by stealing souls, but you have to be born with one. He does not follow this up. That's the entire line.
The hell does that mean, Fox?
Yeah, right? Good going, Fox. Yeah, no, you showed her.
All right.
So the team escapes, and they're all real sad because all their friends are dead. Except Peppy and Rob, turns out they escaped in an escape pod, so it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
And Crystal's like, oh, does that mean Pepper and Starwolf survived? And Fox is like, yeah, probably. That's literally his line. He's like, yeah, probably.
Probably. It seems.
Which, to be fair, Fox is going to be correct.
Yeah.
So yeah, with that, they go on home. Mission accomplished. So during the credits, we actually do get an epilogue. And Alex, last podcast, we speculated that Cornerian's government was a military dictatorship.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it turns out we were wrong.
Uh-huh.
Corneria actually has a civilian government.
Okay.
We learned that the civilian governments, and specifically their main city, Corneria City, suffered serious damage from all the attacks. And with that, the government essentially dissolved and had to be reformed off-world under military supervision.
All right.
So now they're a military dictatorship.
In effect, instead of just, de facto.
Yeah.
All right, sure.
It's great to be both right and wrong at the same time.
Yep.
Also, it seems to be just kind of a mean attack on the Sharp Claws. We get an update on what happened to the dinosaurs of Dinosaur Planet, and we learned most of them died. The Cloud Runners are on the verge of extinction, and the Sharp Claws are extinct. They all died.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Well,
the end.
I feel like that's Nintendo's way of saying, hey, don't worry about Dinosaur Planet. It's not there anymore.
We are never going back. And to be fair, we've never been back.
Nope.
So yeah, that's Star Fox Assault. Ah, man.
Yeah.
Once again, I actually really like the story. It's relatively straightforward. Yeah. It has a pretty good antagonist.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
It's got like an edge to it.
Yeah, totally. It doesn't bring back like Andros for no reason, which is a very Nintendo thing to do, to bring back your main villain.
Boy, it sure is.
So yeah, it's just it's nice and refreshing.
Yep.
But you know what would make it better?
Mm.
If there was a choose your own adventure book.
Oh boy.
So
yeah,
would
that make it better?
It makes it more interesting. Well, okay, I'm not gonna say more interesting, but it makes it interesting.
Okay.
So in 2005, a new company called Q Games was contracted by Nintendo in order to make a DS Star Fox game. Now, Q Games is actually founded by Dylan Cuthbert, who is one of the original members of Argonaut Software, or at least one of the original members of the people who created Star Fox. I should be more specific with that. He was responsible for, when he was 17, for doing a lot of the really crazy 3D games that they would do for the Game Boy and whatnot, and was one of the people who helped put together the Super FX chip.
Okay.
Because, once again, in the late 80s or early 90s, random 17-year-olds are apparently responsible for just kind of the craziest things that happen in video games.
Yeah, pretty much.
Video game history is weird. So
it sure is.
So they were tasked to put together a game for the Nintendo DS that was going to rely on the touchscreen in order to control the R-Wink. Alex, have you ever played Star Fox Command?
I have not. I looked at that and I said, no, I'm good.
It is maybe the worst Star Fox game.
Yeah.
It is a bad game in many ways. It takes a lot of the scrapped elements from Star Fox 2, the overworld map,
right.
The fact that every battle is kind of a free-form, all-range mode sort of battle, that there's a timer with it, and it decides that it needs to add a little special bit of, how about you control everything using the touchscreen?
Right.
Which is, you're going to be shocked by this, an unideal way to control a spaceship.
Really?
Yeah.
My goodness. So I don't know if we clarified. It's not really. I feel like it's been officially stated that Star Fox 2 didn't happen because it was near the end of the Super Nintendo life cycle. It just didn't make sense financially.
Yeah.
And so they just moved on. Playing Star Fox 2, for instance, on the mini Super Nintendo, it seems more likely that it was scrapped because it was going to be a bad game. And these ideas didn't work.
Yeah, it seems to be a combination of that and a combination of the fact that, I mean, this was going to be a game released in like 1996 on a cartridge with an expensive add-on chip.
Right.
For a system that was going to be essentially like, it would be in direct competition with its own Nintendo 64, which obviously was going to be much more impressive with its 3D graphics.
Right, yeah. So there absolutely were market reasons why this wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
But, if it was going to be a fantastic game that would be like the last great hurrah of the Super Nintendo,
yeah,
I feel like maybe they would have gone ahead with it anyway.
Yeah, I agree. Overall, it's not... It's a very interesting game. Everything about Star Fox 2 is very interesting.
Yes, it's very interesting. It's very ambitious. It's very creative.
Have you ever played the really early prototype of Star Fox 2?
No.
There's a very early prototype of it that actually has a multiplayer mode in it. Yeah. And mind you, it's the most bare bones thing in the world.
Right.
But it's still kind of crazy that there's like... they actually had multiplayer planned for this at one point.
Right. Yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. It's also fun because when you like finish the mission, you just fly away endlessly.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like everything about Star Fox 2 that ended up working got pulled into Star Fox 64.
Yeah.
And everything that didn't either got pulled into Command or Zero.
Yeah. Yeah, because the ability to transform into a walker ends up in Zero, and then just like the overall design is basically influences Star Fox Command's design.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then for both of those, you also slap on Nintendo's at the time obsession with whatever alternative input their machine was pushing.
Yeah, and like the idea is that you were supposed to have because the DS came with this thing called the thumb strap, which is like a little piece of plastic that you could use your thumb on the screen to actually control whatever is going on there. It's like an analog stick. Right. Which, it didn't work. No. They tried it with Super Mario 64, and you're better off just using the D-pad on that. Yeah. And then they tried to do it again with Command, and it still doesn't work there. Only there you have zero choice.
Yeah. I don't think touchscreen based analog sticks have ever worked.
No, they never have. There's a reason why emulation on Android phones without a controller is just the worst.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's Star Fox Command is a terrible game. It reviewed actually surprisingly okay at the time, but I think those people are crazy. But I'm going to share something with you, Alex. I have 100% of this game.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. And a big reason why it is because there's a ton of alternate paths. Like when I say this game's like a choose your own adventure book, it essentially is.
Right.
The first playthrough is very straightforward and very short. And then after you beat it, you get an item called the Key of Destiny. And then all of a sudden, you now have choices you can make. And those choices lead to some wacky outcomes. So this game, and wacky outcomes in the sense that this game has 8 endings. And when we get to the end, I'll tell you which ending is canon.
Okay. So
yeah, you ready to talk about Star Fox Command?
I don't know if I am, but let's do it anyway.
Let's dive on in. So, Star Fox Command begins 2 to 3 years after the end of Assault. 2 to 3 years may sound odd. There's kind of a reason. They kind of contradict each other during the game.
Okay.
So, the status quo has changed quite a bit. General Pepper has gotten sick and has been replaced by Peppy as Commander-in-Chief of the Cornerian Army. So, he's left the team. Slippy is...
Hey, that
Go ahead.
Doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't.
Peppy have any qualifications for military or government leadership?
He's old. And a friend of Pepper.
All right.
And that's exactly it. Slippy has left the team after meeting his fiancée, Lucy, and now lives on Aquas, another planet in the Lilat system.
Okay, sure.
By the way, there's a bunch of new characters that are introduced, and with the exception of one character, they all have human names. Also, I called her Lucy, and that's a mistake. Her name's actually Amanda. My apologies on that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's probably the one thing I really hate about this game is that a lot of the new characters, instead of like having like fun, like, I don't know,
right.
Ribitina or something.
Right.
It's like she's Lucy.
Yeah.
This character's name is Marcus. And it's like, you boring people.
Yeah.
What did you like get to Cap Monroe and went, well, Star Fox 64 can't do any better than this.
Yep, nope. Just give up. Don't even try.
Man. Like, I at least appreciate Beltino Toad, but...
Yeah, that's a good...
Exactly, that's a good name. Get weird with it. So, Falco has also left the team as well, for reasons kind of unexplained. It seems to be implied that he just got bored one day and left.
That seems to track.
Seems to track. Finally, while Fox and Crystal's relationship got pretty serious, Fox got worried about Crystal's safety and pushed her to quit the team, which in turn caused Crystal to instead just straight up break up with him and leave completely.
All right.
So the Star Fox team now consists of Fox and Rob 64 and a new Great Fox that looks absolutely terrible to the point that I'm not even going to describe it. It's like a flat hockey puck, essentially.
Right.
So...
Okay, so it's just Fox.
Yeah, it's just Fox.
You know what? I don't hate this starting point. It's sort of like a... Maybe not entirely Batman Beyond-ish point, but it's sort of that thing of like... Fox has been doing this too long and he's made mistakes and now he's sort of ended up on his own. Yeah, I've been going back and forth about whether or not I actually like this for the past, I guess now 16 years. And I think I have settled on that I do like it because unlike other Nintendo series, they do actually try to move forward. Right, yeah. And pretty consistently from game to game. I don't like it in the sense that it does kind of like pull on very similar strings that previous games have made, such as like Slippy and Falco essentially quitting the team or quitting their roles. Like it kind of goes back to that well, and it's like, it's kind of annoying. And after like Assault having like really good banter between the team, I kind of want to continue that a little bit. But but at the same time, like if you're going to, move things forward, then yeah, go ahead and move things forward, right? Right. So I will say Falco's a fun character, but he has like no potential for character development. No. Like, there's just nothing you can do with him. He's like, oh, he was an asshole one day and he went away. Yep, pretty much. It is implied that he does think that the Star Fox team is his only family, and that's why he keeps coming back, but they never really expand upon that much. Right. Which is too bad. Yeah. But yeah, so that's our status quo, where we're at right now. This is all rather unfortunate for the Lilat system, because Corneria immediately becomes under threat from a space armada originating from Venom. Calling himself the Angler Empire,
They come from the acid oceans of Venom and are essentially various types of fish people. They have like different, like a general structure that is essentially like different types of deep sea fish, and for some reason Andrew as well. He's just hanging out there.
Sure.
Also, Octoman, who's a character from F-Zero, is also here. In case you wonder who Octoman is, he's an octopus. And
you know what? Good. I'm glad F-Zero and Star Fox are in the same universe. Honestly, I'm happy about that.
It's actually incredibly strange. So the F-Zero Star Fox connection is strange in that they both are in the same universe and not.
Okay,
it's more like,
that makes sense.
Yeah, it's more like they're alternate universes of each other, because in Star Fox, the G-Zero race exists.
Oh.
Yeah, and in F-Zero, James McCloud is alive, but he's very much a human.
Interesting. Okay, that's also fine.
Yeah, it's kind of cool, actually. I like it.
Yeah.
So this species was rumored to be a creation of Andros, and they have now chosen this time to strike and take over the Lilat system. They don't get a whole lot of character development, so we're not going to talk a whole lot about them. But I am going to say that Fox, being a hero, takes off alone to defeat them. He quickly realizes that this is not going to work. He's just one fox against a bunch of sea monsters.
Right.
So he gets in contact with Slippy, and Fox meets his like very protective fiancée, Amanda. And they all agree the anglers need to be stopped, and they need an expert pilot for that, Falco. So they meet up with him on Aquas as well, and it doesn't take much for him to rejoin the team. However, he comes with some bad news. Crystal has joined Starwolf and is now dating Panther.
All right, that's dumb.
Yeah, it's really dumb. I hate it.
That's super dumb.
So that's pretty much the common through line that like leads to all the split paths. With one exception, you can actually beat the game without ever meeting back up with Falco.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which leads to an ending where Falco gets very sad and makes his own cool team with Cat.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty good. So now it's more or less after this, once again, that the game goes wildly off the rails depending on the decisions you make. So we're gonna like stick with like a general through line, because really the alternate paths, while they have flavor text, aren't really that different.
Right.
So it basically goes like this. Fox meets up with Starwolf and confronts Crystal, she's now become like an icy killer in her own right, and at first she ignores Fox. However, she still loves him, and it doesn't really take much to peel her away from Starwolf and Panther.
Okay,
and she
sure.
just rejoins the team, although she's like, I will never forgive you, Fox. Which, depending on the ending you get, will either be true or not.
That seems like an extreme way to state frustration with an ex, but okay.
Yeah, right? The team meets up with Lucy, the daughter of Peppy and a skilled pilot herself. Her mom, by the way, was a rabbit named Vivian. And like apparently her mom died like a long time ago, and apparently he just had his daughter that's Fox's age this entire time.
Yeah, just hanging out, being around. Sure.
Well, Peppy was like, I guess, I don't know, barely being a dad. I don't know. It's weird.
Right.
Well, I guess by the time like Star Fox reforms, she should already have been an adult. But either way, it's weird that she's never mentioned before this.
Yeah, it's also weird that he's just like hanging out on the Great Fox all the time while he has a daughter somewhere else.
Yeah, that he just never talks about. So she directs the team to actually find Peppy, who could be on various planets, but let's say he's on Fortuna right now.
Sure.
Upon finding him, Peppy himself rejoins Star Fox as they make a plan to fight against the Anglers. Now, during this time, depending on the path you take, the team can meet up with old friends Bill Gray and Cat Monroe, who aren't really doing anything too different compared to the previous games, so we're going to leave it at that.
Okay.
They can also meet a new character, an ape named Dash Bowman, who's an ace pilot in the Cornerian army, and it's also the grandson of Andros. He is like the one interesting character in this entire game.
He might also have the best name so far.
That too. He is surprisingly a big fan of Fox, and while he's aware of the fact that Fox killed his grandfather, he personally feels appalled at Andros' crime, so he's like, hey, listen, you had to do what you had to do.
Right. No
hard feelings. I know you're a good guy.
Right.
So one person who, oddly enough, doesn't feel this way is Crystal herself. Like, Crystal and Fox actually have a fight, like, where she explains to Fox that at one point, Andros actually was a good guy, and he was only doing the things he did because he disagreed with Pepper, and he only rebelled because his experiments to help Corneria were shut down by Pepper himself. Now, Fox is like, this is ridiculous. No, he went crazy, and, there's no way he could possibly be trying to actually help things out. Help people? Not Andros. But apparently there's a shred of evidence that this could be true, and it could also be the downfall for the Anglers. So the Anglers are permanently safe from all of Corneria's forces because they live in the acid oceans. And like any ship that goes in there, if it's not an English ship, will just disintegrate.
Okay.
But it turns out on Titania, there are rumors of a device that Andros created that can terraform Venom. And upon arriving there, they're greeted by a hologram of Andros, who directs a bioweapon to attack the team. And upon defeating it, they get the terraforming device and take off for Venom. So yeah, it looks like he actually was trying to terraform Venom this entire time. Or at least at one point before he just was
right. This was one of his projects.
Yeah, one of his many projects. I kind of don't buy Crystal's whole thing. It's like, no, he was really just being good. And it was Pepper who was the bad guy, which is...
Okay, so I actually really like that, not as an objective truth of the plot, but as a factor of her having had a psychic connection with Andros at one point.
Mm-hmm.
That, like, she saw into his memories and his mind, and it might have even colored her perception of what he did.
Man, that would be a really great thing if they ever expanded upon it or mentioned it.
That would be, like, a really cool aspect of her, like, having this perspective on everything that happened.
It would totally also explain why she had kind of, like, changed her views as well and kind of went from being, like, pretty starry-eyed and just wanting to help to, like... being like now icy cold and vindictive.
Right. I mean, I think that's just a stupid character development in general, but
yeah, it's a very spurned lover sort of thing. It's a real big flaw of Crystal. Like that's like an assault as well to a certain extent of like she's Fox's love interest and she's written that way and it kind of sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, it's sort of unclear what her character is outside of that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really too bad. But yeah, no, unfortunately, while that would be a really good explanation for everything...
This game reminds me a lot of Mass Effect, and Crystal reminds me a lot of Liara.
Oh, yeah. Fox is her shepherd.
Yep.
It doesn't take much for her to forgive Fox and just be like, oh, you're fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong at all.
It's hard being a blue love interest in space, man.
Oh, geez, yeah, she is a blue love interest. Man, damn it. I hate this. Well, they get the terraforming device, they take off for Venom, and upon arriving there, they fire into the sea, and it basically transforms Venom instantaneously into a habitable planet.
Oh.
So this is very bad for the Anglers, who are like, oh, shit. They can come down here now. And they do. They go down in there and they fight the Angler Emperor and destroy him. They defeat us.
So this also implies that the terraformer was done.
Yep.
It was finished. And I'm assuming at some point Andros was like, hey, I did this thing. We can terraform Venom. To which the Cornerian government, whatever that was like, nah, we need that as the death planet to send people to.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unclear exactly when he finished it. Was it after he got exiled and was like, I should probably make this habitable for myself? Or it was like before or what? It's hard to say. All we know is that he finished it. It's on Titania. And there's a bioweapon protecting it.
Right.
Yeah, it's all very confusing. But yeah, either way, it was finished and never used.
Yeah.
So yeah, they defeat the Anglers. And that's it. That's kind of the end of the game.
Okay.
Now, there are 8 total endings that can happen, and sometimes the circumstances of the fight of the Angler Emperor is a little bit different. Like one ending, he's fought in space, for instance. Another ending, like Star Wolf fights him instead. But essentially, the endings go as such. So now, probably the closest thing to a canonical ending would be the first ending, which is Fox, Crystal, Falco, and Slippy leave Venom, and then like Fox has learned his lesson. And he's like, hey, Crystal, please forgive me. And she's like, I'm not going to forgive you. And the entire team is like, hey, come on. Forgive him. He's an idiot. She's like, okay, fine. Fine. And so she rejoins the team. And then Amanda's like, but I don't want Slippy to get in danger. So like, well, Amanda, do you want to join the team? And she's like, sure. So now the Star Fox team consists of 2 frogs.
Oh, okay.
Yay.
Sure.
And with Venom Purified, Dash like leaves the Cornerian army and like just watches over Venom as a steward.
What?
Yeah, and like starts to basically kind of like rebuild the society that's on there.
Does he have qualifications to do that?
Legacy of Andros, I guess. I don't know.
Is there a society on Venom? I thought it was just all bioweapons and core holes.
I mean, excellent question. Not really sure.
Is the society all of the death prisoners they sent there?
Yeah.
Is Venom Australia now?
Maybe the criminals are still there. Maybe there's some anglers It is, yes, it is definitely Australia, by the way.
Okay.
100% that is Australia. Everything there is trying to kill you.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so kind of it's unknown exactly what's going on there. There's another ending that sort of expands upon it that might as well be the same ending, oddly enough.
All right.
So another ending that could happen is that the Angler Emperor is defeated and Fox instead decides to disband the Star Fox team. Basically, it's if you like beat the game but you just never recruit Crystal.
Okay.
They find out she's on Saria.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a one mission of the dinosaur planet. And so he goes there, he like retires, they get married, and they have a kid who's a blue fox by the name of Marcus.
That's terrible.
Yeah. And he ends up forming his own Star Fox team, consisting of one of Slippy's sons, Pepe's granddaughter, and a now old Falco Lombardi taking over the Pepe role, wears a rad sunglasses. He's the one good part of this entire ending.
I see what they're going for. They almost pulled it off.
Yeah. It's...
If that had been its own game about that, they might have been able to do it. But as a footnote to this one, nah.
What if I tell you that Slippy's son is orange and has a cowboy hat?
That's terrible.
Yes, it is.
That's the worst. None of that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. So the third ending is actually the ending you always get when you first play the game. Basically, the team defeats the Angler Empire in space, and Crystal can't forgive Fox, so she leaves and rejoins Star Wolf. That's it.
Okay.
So the next ending, next two endings really are kind of like together. Like you're literally given a choice to either like do the Star Fox thing or do the Wolf thing, and that's just the final mission.
Mm-hmm.
But starting with basically what happens is that halfway through the game, you can actually recruit Star Wolf to join your team.
Okay.
And Wolf goes, "Oh yeah, that's great. Hey Fox, you should go and fight Pigma, who's shown back up. Oh, you're going to do that? I'm gonna steal your ship." And literally steals the ship and goes and defeats the Angler Emperor with Crystal as part of the team.
That's so weird.
Yeah, that's
so weird.
It's like my favorite ending because like if you select the Star Fox part, like Fox and Falco fight basically a mutated Pigma who's like a giant like diamond in space essentially.
Okay.
And like he gets dumped that and like what do we do now? Falco's like I just got to report that Star Wolf defeated Angler Emperor. Like, wait, did they just those dicks? It's great.
I really, really, really like this ending.
I do too.
Because I love the idea of Wolf just being like, "Fuck Star Fox. I'm gonna steal their ship and save the Lilat system." Not because I want to save the Lilat system. I just want to steal the glory from Fox and make him look like an idiot.
Yeah. It's so good.
I'm going to save the day out of spite.
Yep. 100% out of spite. And it's perfect. It's perfect in every way.
That's really good.
It's easily my favorite ending.
And I'm going to recruit his girlfriend to help me do it.
Oh, it's the ultimate dick move. It is the ultimate dick move.
Oh, that's so strong.
It's so strong. So yeah, if you pick the Wolf part and do that ending, basically the citizens of Lilat praise the Star Wolf. They're like, "You're pretty great."
Yes.
But they won't forgive Crystal. Like they basically tell Crystal that you're a dick. You betrayed Fox and his team. And Crystal like eventually finds these insults unbearable and leaves Star Wolf and like leaves the Lilat system. Becomes a bounty huntress.
Damn.
Okay. Do you want to know what her bounty huntress name is?
Is it Vixen?
Worse. It's called Cursed with a K.
That's so bad. That's so bad. What? Who would even think of that?
Right? It's the worst.
That's terrible.
It's terrible. Like she actually eventually runs to Fox on the planet Krew, Kew, but apparently he doesn't recognize her, and it's unknown what becomes of the meeting. Okay, I am going to share one image of like Cornerian citizens like gossiping behind her back because I just want to show this to you.
Okay,
it's a real stupid. It's probably going to be a little tiny, but
okay.
Look at that dog's face.
Oh my god. Is this the official art style for the game?
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Oh god.
Oh yeah. Here, back here.
Lord. Oh Oh no.
Yeah, look at all those. Look at all those. Look at that. Look at that evil crystal named Cursed.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's exceedingly bad in a way that I love. All right, let's get that down. So yeah, that's that ending.
Okay.
So the counterpoint to that ending is that Fox, like, after, like, basically Crystal breaks his heart and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's like basically crying and feeling sad, and then Falcon's like, "Hey, I got an idea. What if we take our wings and we turn them into race cars?"
Yes.
And so they join the G0 Grand Prix and become racing pilots, leaving behind the days of Star Fox.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. So there's another ending that can happen where you basically play as all the lady characters, and you have to defend Corneria from, like, a last-minute Angler assault while everyone else, like, defeats the Angler Emperor. And the ending basically consists of all the girls having to cook the guys' dinner when they come back and have a feast for them.
Oh, there it is.
Yep. Also, Christopher joins the Star Fox team after that, so that's neat, I guess.
God.
Yeah.
Why?
Why not?
1,000 reasons why not.
Yeah.
All right. Sure, so that ending's there.
Yep. So I've already alluded to this next ending. That's the one where you just don't recruit Falco, and then Falco's just sad.
Oh, right.
Like, you actually take Falco and, like, defeat Pigma, but, like, Fox and everyone else slave Lilat's system. He's like, "I'm sad." And then Cat Monroe shows up and is like, "Let's make our own mercenary team." And they recruit Dash, and they make their own mercenary team.
All right, fair.
For some reason, there's an ending for Slippy. So after they, like, clear out Aquas of Angler forces, like, the game ends with him marrying Amanda. And they end up having, let me see how many kids. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 kids. And, like, he basically, like, gets into old age, like, sharing stories of how he used to be a badass pilot.
Well, it's close enough.
Close enough, yeah. Finally, the last ending is an ending called Dash Makes a Choice. So this is kind of, might as well just be an expanded version of the first ending, where Dash stays behind on Venom. Because he stays behind to fulfill his grandfather's wish of a beautiful Venom. And he continues to terraform the planet, and immigrants begin to arrive, and he builds a society. And eventually they begin to rival Corneria in terms of, like, technology and population. And one fateful day, Dash announces that Venom has become the heart of Lilat's system, and Corneria is no longer in charge. And then a minor border incident happens, and full-scale war erupts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just a Lilat civil war, then.
Yep. He basically becomes Andros 2.0. So, Alex, you're probably wondering, which of these endings are canon? Is it the...
I don't know. I don't know if I am wondering that.
Well, I'm going to tell you anyways.
Yeah?
None of them are.
Okay.
Dylan Cutbirth has been on the record saying that none of these endings are canon, and if there's any sequel to Star Fox, it should take place in the middle of Star Fox Command.
Okay.
Now, I don't know how that would work, personally.
Yeah, I don't, that doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, and honestly, if they were to make a sequel to Star Fox, I would say they probably should just ignore Command.
Probably.
Or go with the first ending, I guess, where it's just, I don't know, Slippy has his wife hanging out with him.
Yeah, things basically go back to normal.
Yeah. Like, I could totally see them, like, going with the Dash Makes a Choice ending eventually, but...
Right.
Like, that seems like it would sort of make sense, but, it's hard to say. It's hard to say.
It's hard to say.
But yeah, with that, that's kind of the end of the main through line of Star Fox. Now, it isn't like the end of the Star Fox games or the Star Fox series.
Right.
Like, Star Fox 64 3D would come out in 2008, and then Star Fox Zero would be released to great fanfare and immediate disappointment in 2016. And, like, Star Fox as a series, despite the fact that Zero did not sell particularly well, it doesn't appear to be dead by any sense of the imagination. The Starlink DLC, as far as I understand, did incredibly well and was very popular. People really like that. And it doesn't seem like there's any indication that Star Fox itself is dead. Now, I don't know if there's actually going to be, like, a legit sequel to Star Fox in the sense of, like, anything that moves the story forward, or if they're just going to kind of continuously remake that first game.
Right.
Kind of hard to know what Nintendo even thinks about as far as, like, expanding the story in their franchises in general. Nintendo's, they're in a bit of a weird spot when it comes to just, like, what they want to do with their games, it feels like.
Yeah. Yeah, that does feel kind of true across the board right now.
Yeah. But at the very least, if they do, hopefully they do something very interesting with what they have set up, either at the end of Assault or at the end of Command, or just, I don't know, go off in a different direction.
Okay, can I armchair screenwrite this?
Absolutely.
Okay, so their next game should be a redo of Command. Not like a, not the same gameplay or structure or anything, but just like, okay, let's take that Command concept and try it again. The protagonist of the game should be Dash Bowman. You should play as Dash Bowman, who, upon Corneria or the Lilat system coming under threat from the Angular Empire, needs to find and recruit the Star Fox team, who has gone silent since the end of Assault. And basically that same setup where Fox and Rob are the only ones left.
Yeah.
And he needs to talk Fox out of his self-imposed retirement/exile. Am I just, once again, describing Batman Beyond? Yes, I don't care.
Batman Beyond's a hell of a show, so...
it sure is.
I'm cool with Batman Spider-Man, and I'm cool with that happening here. Yeah, no, I could totally go with that. That actually sounds pretty good. I kind of want them to leave the Lilat system and just be mercenaries.
That'd be cool, too.
Yeah, I want a game where they have to, like, take on mercenary missions and, like, earn money and whatnot. And,
yeah.
Like, maybe there's a large overarching threat that they're trying to stop in, like, another solar system or something. And, like, tensions begin to, like, arise between him and Crystal or something. I don't know.
Sure.
Like...
yeah.
Either way, I think this is ripe for many different directions they could go if they really want to.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think there's a lot they can do. And as we've been saying, like, just the world and the characters are a lot of fun. And they're very fondly regarded. And just, they could do a lot of things expanding on that and playing with that if they just figure out how to make the game fun.
Yeah, they just... Hey, Nintendo, make the game fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they could just do that, it'd be great. But yeah, once again, Star Fox is... You know what? I might actually say it's maybe like one of my top 3 favorite Nintendo series.
Yeah.
You know what? I will straight up say that. Like, I just make a new game. Make a new game. Make it fun. I'll play the hell out of it. Like, I bought Star Fox 64 3D, a port that everybody agrees is kind of bad.
Yeah.
And I still really enjoyed it.
It's, just... I don't know. I feel like the answer is just make a $30 game. Like, just make a new Star Fox, make it a half-price game, put some production value on it. It's fine.
Yeah. Good 3-hour experience. I'm done. Even if that.
Yeah.
Man, this left me depressed.
Yeah.
But to be fair, that's a recurring theme with this podcast.
It sure is, as well as a lot of Nintendo franchises.
Yeah. Well, for our next episode, I assure you, we're not going to be ending that one depressed.
All right. Good.
I've already decided on it, and it's going to be a happy one.
I'm excited.
But yeah, Alex, do you have any like final thoughts for the Star Fox franchise before we go and part ways?
No, we've said so much. I was trying to think, is there...
Yeah, I don't think there really is much else to say.
No, in this case, no.
Other than, let's make a new game, and please don't give it dumb controls.
Don't give it dumb controls. Stop dumb
controls, please. To be fair, it seems like they have, but
yeah,
continue stopping.
Remain stopped.
Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. Once again, if you want to hear other episodes of this podcast, go to ftp.podbean.com or search through Fallin Thru Plotholes on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, or YouTube. Also, FTP will get you to us if you enter that into either Apple Podcasts or Google Play. And with that, I think we're going to go ahead and sign off here. So thank you all for joining us for this weird journey through the weird animal kingdom that is Star Fox. And we'll see you next time. Take care.
See you next time.
Take care, everybody.